Hello, and welcome back to Indie Game Dev Report. This is the second episode, and I'm actually the interview person for this episode. And I've got a friend, CforSerious, who actually asked me to be interviewed for his podcast, and I thought it was a great idea for me to explain to my listeners who I am without sounding too contrived by interviewing myself, which I tried and sounded really dumb. So yeah. Also, I want to thank everyone who joined the Discord and followed the new Twitter account I made for the podcast, and thanks for the early feedback. So some of the feedback was more about it being news-based, and I definitely want to keep it like on the ground level as much as possible. I'm sure I'll talk about some big news stuff as it happens, but a lot of the big stuff, I'm not so inclined to talk about the AAA stuff. And even though a lot of that pertains to indies, it's hard not to talk about some of that stuff sometimes. But mostly, I'm just going to be talking about people that you can actually reach out to online for the most part. People that aren't so big that they don't have time for you, that type of thing. So, yeah. So one thing I thought was really cool is Blue Goo Games has a horse race that they put together on it's a Twitter follower horse race. It's pretty cool. So you give them your pixel art. There's a size specification that I cannot remember, and from there they add it to the race, and it looks like you can animate them too. I didn't realize you could animate them. Yeah. But so get a hold of Blue Goo Games at Blue Goo Games, one word, lowercase, on Twitter, and they'd be happy to have you join the race. There's a few different races going on, and yeah, it's just fun to check out all the different horses. They're really cool. Everyone's got great horses, and everyone's doing really great getting followers and being friendly towards one another, and no one's taking it too seriously, but it's all fun. Yeah, so I did want to go over some pinned tweets and other things that people have been posting. People who have been following the Indie Game Dev Report Twitter, which is IGDR_podcast, I believe. Capital P on podcast. And yeah, so the first pinned tweet would be from Blue Goo Games, who's celebrating the new year, of course, back in December. And they put out a new trailer. So definitely check out Blue Goo Games and their newest trailer. And ask them about the horse race again. Okay, so then next we have Skull Commando Labs and Pirate Games working together on something that looks really cool. It's like a green 2D vector art boss battle with like disembodied heads that shoot lasers, and it's definitely a very cool GIF. So check that out. They're on Twitter. They're at Lab Skull, that's camel case, and Pirate Games 8, that's camel case as well, and no space with the 8. And so also MickeyMadhouse.com Mickey'sMadhouse.com is updated. Mickey Mortis on Twitter, that's one word, camel case. And the website's looking really cool, and it looks like there's some games they're discussing on there, some projects and stuff. It looks like the Larkin's Wreck, sorry if I destroyed the name, it's a 2D RPG. It has its own lore and a spin on a range of common RPG tropes as well as everyday life. That looks really interesting. Then Alpha Eaters, it looks like, is an educational game. That's interesting as well. Virtual Validation, it says, is coming soon, so we don't know much about that, but there's stuff to look forward to with Mickey Mortis on Twitter. And then also we've got Evil Villain Games, who they have Raven's Path, which is a mobile game that's actually a lot of fun to play. I was playing it and having a great time playing it. I was a part of the beta, which is actually just ending, they're tweeting about, and that means that the release is coming up. So that's pretty awesome that they're gearing up for a release. It doesn't say when, so they probably aren't for sure, but they've got a nice looking GIF, and so you should go check them out at Evil Villain Games. That's camel cased, and say hi to Evil Villain Games, and definitely ask them about Raven's Path. Check out the GIFs. It's a really fun game. It's hard to explain, but it's definitely got like elements of like almost like a puzzle. It's like a real-time puzzle game, strategy, RPG, tactics game. It's really hard to describe. There's definitely tactics elements, but real time, and there's definitely like RPG elements, but it's something to look into. It's very cool, and there's also very cool art mechanics for that. So check that out. And also, Rodol Fido, I think is, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm probably butchering it, at Rival Rebels game, that is lowercase on Twitter, at Rival Rebels game. And back in January, they tweeted about a dual wielding, for their game, for riding a bike and shooting. And that game looks really cool. Very polished and very cool art, 3D, sci-fi, and I think it's an MMO. It looks really cool. Okay, and then also Encalibro reached 4,000 followers. That's amazing. So he's got a cool gift for that. Definitely check him out at Encalibro. That's ANCA, excuse me, ANCALABRO on Twitter. And yeah, so that's a little bit of news. I mean, there's a few other things, but mostly I've just been working on my game Retro Spaceball, which I'll go into in the interview. I've been working on another game, a card game, which I'll also go into the interview on. And I'm working on a project that I don't really go into the interview on much, and I'll go into that eventually. But as you can tell, I have a lot of projects, and really Retro Spaceball is my main focus. So enjoy an interview, me being interviewed about Retro Spaceball. Yeah, so and thank you so much, CforSerious, for taking the time to play my game, give me great feedback, stream it, ask me on your podcast and interview me, come up with these great questions to ask me and show interest in what I'm doing. I just want to thank you so much, CforSerious, and everyone should check out his podcast, check out his YouTube video, his YouTube channel, and see all the videos he makes of all the different indies. Ask him if he'll stream your game if you're trying to get your game out there to streamers. I think he'd be happy to. He's got quite a variety of games that he plays, and he's a little bit of a not an old timer, but a little bit more my age. So I'm 34. I think he's a little bit older than that, and we've got some games under our belt. We've played a lot of different games. We're not new to games. So definitely ask him for some feedback, and he's great for that. And without further ado, CforSerious. You can also listen to his podcast version of this as well. Here he is interviewing me, Rick Oclon, and I'm at Rick Oclon on Twitter. That's Camelcased. RIKOCLON. And enjoy.
So we're going to jump straight into it now. So we have here my new good friend, Rick Oclon. Nice. I managed to say your name correctly straight away. First time. I've never tested that before ever. This is the first time. Excellent. So Rick, well, welcome to the podcast. This is episode number 1.
Episode 1.
We got this.
Here we are.
So this is going out. I mean, this is going out to so many different places, you would believe. So this is being live streamed on Twitch right now. It will be sent up to YouTube after. It will be on an audio podcast for everyone to listen to. So there's no excuses for you not to listen to the show now.
Yeah, and then I'm putting it on my podcast as well.
And you're doing it on your which is called what?
Indie Game Dev Report. Sorry, I stumbled on the name. Indie Game Dev Report. It's still new as well, and it's got a YouTube channel as well. So.
All right. Well, I'll link all that in the show notes for that. That's no problem. And
thank you. Appreciate it.
YouTube below bit and all that stuff. Okay. So, like I said, so this is officially episode number 1 of the CforSerious About Gaming podcast.
And I'm super excited.
Good. Yeah. Well, excellent. That's good news. Because if you weren't, it'd be a rubbish first show. So we're just going to, as the description says, I'm just going to be interviewing indie devs about their games. It's as simple as that. So I've started my Twitch channel. If you haven't watched me already, I try to play indie games to let some of these cool guys showcase their games, because some of these games are amazing, and they just don't get don't get to see the day of light, really. Day of light. That's a new saying. A light of day. That's what I mean. So I'm just trying to showcase what they do, and I thought a podcast would be a cool way to just find out about the people who are creating these games.
And we really appreciate it too, because visibility is just extremely difficult for indie game devs. This is the hardest thing to get people to even see it. They look at your game and they call it spam, and it's the strangest feeling.
Yeah, and especially now, because it's weird, because there are now so many indie games out there. It's kind of gone the other way, where you're competing with so many other people.
Yeah.
It's
terrible. But it's great at the same time too, because the barrier for entry is so low that you have all of these devs just kind of saturating the market or whatever. But at the same time, you have all of these game designers coming from it. I mean, not all of them stick around, but there's a lot of great ones that are coming from it. There's a lot of great games, a lot of great genres, a lot of great ideas that are coming out of this. And like roguelites, for example, really popular right now. They're fun to play. It's a great evolution that took obviously a very long time to come from, but stuff like that is only possible because the barrier of entry has been lowered. So,
of course, that is fantastic, but it doesn't help you when you've got 10,000 other games out there.
It just makes it more difficult, in fact, because now you've got these really great games coming out they have to compete against.
Yeah,
and some of these people, they already have a successful game. Now they have a budget. Now you have to compete against their budget as well. So you have to stand out that much more and hope that they don't know what they're doing. Hope that they're just a one-trick pony. I'm just joking. You have to congratulate them, because they're doing a great job. And hope that there's room for more people in the market, because there really is. It's an endless market.
It is a huge market, and there's endless ideas as well. It can always be improved. Every game can be improved somewhere. So,
and it's so difficult that not everyone can do it. As low as they can make the barrier, game design is still difficult. And I think a lot of people, when they're not good at game design, they kind of fall back on the fact that, there's just so many games out there. The reality is that most of the games out there, there's tons of games out there. Most of them aren't designed very well. That's just the way that it is.
Absolutely. So let's get
Hopefully
on.
Your game doesn't fall into that. But you should definitely check and look at your feedback and see if people are saying stuff about the game design, because if there's problems that need to be addressed, it's better to do it early than later.
Yeah, you can't just ignore any negative stuff. Sometimes it's true, isn't it? Unfortunately, not everything.
It's really difficult sometimes to see what's true and what's not true. Sometimes you get some really insane feedback. One time someone told me that my game wanted them, or made them want to kill themselves. Seriously, they told me that on Discord, and I don't know if they were being, sarcastic or whatever, but I told them thank you for the feedback, and I just kind of left it at that, because I knew that they were trying to use that as an insult. I wasn't really fearing that they were actually going to kill themselves over a video game that they apparently didn't like. So I just left it at that. Thank you for the feedback. And they responded with a whole bunch of actual valid feedback, which helped the game be better. So me just not falling into that trap made it good. So there's that.
Well, if you can come out in a positive light after that comment, you're doing well, because that's hard.
Right. And he played my game. He probably played it again after the changes I made too. Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to keep track when you're testing with such a wide audience.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah. So we got.
I try my best, but yeah.
I do have a list of questions, but as I've explained already, it's not a strict list. It just helps us keep it a bit on track. So we're just going to cover. We're going to cover who you are, what your game is, what's happened during development, any future plans, all that kind of stuff is the stuff we're going to be covering. So I'll start off with question 1. But it feels, if I say it like this, it sounds like a dating show. So, Question 1.
We need to cue the music here.
I need a
Da,
little
da, 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 da. Sorry.
So, contestant number 1. Tell us who you are and what your game is called.
All right, so I'm Rick Oclon. My game is Retro Spaceball. It's a pixel art vertical cosmic shooter that's combined with pinball. So it kind of takes the genre that has its own, tropes and things that we're aware of, and then twists it by, adjusting some of the tropes, taking some out, keeping some, and then merging it with pinball tropes and mechanisms and mechanics from pinball. So you've got a ball that you're trying to get to the top of the level in the most basic sense. And you use basically a Galaga ship that shoots bullets to get the ball up there. And there's a goal at the end of the level. And then there's obstacles and enemies and pickups, power-ups and bosses. And it just gets more and more difficult as you progress. And all the levels are handmade. It's not procedural in any way right now. So there's very little RNG. All the randomness occurs on how the ball bounces, and it's quite bouncy.
It is. Now, usually I plan on doing the interview. I play the game just because then I can actually ask questions about a game I don't know anything about, which is a bit more natural than already knowing the answers. So
sure.
In the future, generally, I'll be playing the game after this conversation. But
right.
This time, I actually played your game. What was it, about a week ago? I have no idea. I played it before, and I streamed it. So if you're watching the YouTube version of this or the live stream, you'll be able to see my stream from a week ago playing the game. So you can check that out there. But yeah, as you said, so
that's my game.
It's very unique. It's very cool. It looks beautiful. It's again, I can't think of a game that's like this at all.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's really awesome feedback for me. I mean, I was trying to make something unique, but I was afraid of making something too unique. And then after I made it, I was looking at the market, and there was not a whole lot of pinball stuff, and I was getting kind of scared. And now, if you look at the market, there actually is pinball stuff. So that's great for me, because not only does that confirm my idea of being a decent idea, or a good idea, hopefully, but at least a decent idea. And then I can watch to see what these people with big budgets are doing and try to spend my money the same way that they're spending their money. And maybe talk to the same publicist, or not publicist, same magazine publishers and the same, art or the critics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing it for a couple of hours in the end, and what's funny is it's actually quite a simple idea, isn't it? In the sense that it is, it's pinball as a space shooter. I mean, as you said, it's you are, but it works really well because you're trying to.
Yeah, I took out the flippers. I thought about flippers for a while, but you're the flippers. You don't need the flippers.
Yeah,
it just adds another thing that doesn't need to be.
Who needs flippers when you've got lasers? Right.
And then when you get the spread and you have 3 of them coming out, then it's like, you really don't need flippers.
Yeah, it's amazing when you get that power up. Great. So as you see, you get power ups to change the weapon. So as your spaceship flies up the level, well, the ship kind of stays in the same place generally.
At the bottom of the screen, it stays, but you can move it left and right. Now, a lot of people have actually told me that I should change the controls, because you're locked vertically. You cannot control the ship vertically. What you can do is indirectly control the ship by shooting the ball. So when the ball reaches the bottom of the screen, it tells the player controller to move to the bottom so it can reach underneath the ball. If it gets to the top of the screen, it's told to use its jets to fly up towards the ball. So it keeps the ball on the screen, and it keeps the player underneath the ball in a position where it can shoot it. It takes out the hassle of having to do vertical control, but a lot of people feel like they could do better if they had that. But I feel like that's not actually the case.
I thought that. Do you know, this was it was when I was playing it, I was thinking, oh man, I wish I could move up to the ball. And that is
but it wouldn't actually help you too much.
It wouldn't. I know, but that's what I'm saying. So at first, that was my initial reaction, like, oh God, why can't I move up? But then as you play it, it'd just be a real pain because you'd have to keep trying to backtrack to get under the ball all the time. And you only kind of know that after you've played it. But it makes sense. You think, it's a space shooter. I should be able to fly forward. But it doesn't make sense to fly forward because you keep
since it is
the ball all the time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But since it is a piece of feedback that comes up quite consistently throughout the game's development, I do want to kind of play with it at one point and just to see what everyone's talking about, and then I'll decide for sure if there's going to be any wiggle room. But I feel like it'll just be confusing to have like a spot where you can go and then you can't go all the way to the top. But there's no point in going that high in the level. So I don't know.
I'm looking at the stream now, and I can see where I would want to move up, but it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. I
think part of it is that the bullets need to be a little bit faster, and I'm still tweaking a lot of that stuff. So there's that, and then I'm going to redesign the dash mechanics still. I've got a better idea for how that's going to work.
Yeah, and this is the point of testing, isn't it? This is the whole reason. Yeah. So there's your game. So question 2.
Sure. Oh wait, yeah. I didn't answer about myself. I just went straight into my game.
Straight for the game. You are the game.
Yeah. So do you want me to cover myself a little bit here?
Yeah. Like I said.
Okay. So like I said, I'm Rick Oclon. I grew up actually in Illinois in the U.S. So it was a small town called Naperville. It's actually kind of pricier land value area. It's doing pretty well, but the rest of Illinois is not doing that great. I mean, Chicago's Chicago, but the rest of Illinois is very rural outside of the suburbs of Chicago, which are quite expansive, but like I said, expensive. So I grew up there, and then shortly after I moved out to the country, and I learned art mostly. I went to art school eventually for 3D animation, and I did that, and no one was really hiring when I graduated because it was like the housing crisis stuff was going on, and it kind of forced me to teach myself programming at that point. So I had a rough time teaching myself being like an artistic person, but I had really terrible internet because I was out in the rural Illinois at this point where there was no jobs for tech people, and I was like delivering pizzas and stuff like that. So I was still applying for jobs. I just wasn't getting word back from anything. And I was working on portfolio projects, but it was kind of disheartening to work on projects that no one was seeing, and there were never completed games or anything like that. And I wanted to do stuff like that. And they didn't really teach me that stuff at college. They weren't really teaching it at a lot of places back then. There wasn't that many schools for game design. And I didn't really know exactly what game design was back then. I knew that I wanted to make games. I didn't know what game design entailed. I knew what game development entailed, and I knew that game design was part of it. I didn't realize how big of a part it was. I just thought it was kind of inherited in being a developer that you also did some game design, because a lot of decisions are game design decisions. If you're the one making the game and making the art at the same time, then you're making game design decisions when you're making the art. But when you're working for a studio, there's a game designer that tells you how to make the art, and that's how that works.
Yeah. So did you when you said you decided to teach yourself programming? Was it purely for the reason to develop games, or was it for
absolutely
because you? Oh, so that was your.
I had no interest in doing it in any other thing. I tried doing some Flash web design stuff, but it was to sell my art. Terribly. I never actually did anything for anyone else with Flash, but my own stuff and animations. And I tried to do 2D animations with Macromedia Director when that was a thing back in the day, because that's actually what I started coding with. But that's like a whole different world, whole different dimension back then.
So were you a big gamer before this? Or?
Oh yeah, console gamer. I didn't have early access to a computer growing up, believe it or not. It was like an occasional. So my dad would bring home a laptop that didn't have color, a big bulky LCD mouse button. It had Windows 1.3 on it, and and it had Paint, which was great because it was a black and white computer with Paint on it, and I thought that was insane. But I loved it. I loved playing with Paint, even though it was black and white. And then one of my friends had a color computer that was nice. I think it was a Macintosh. Like eventually my dad had a color computer eventually that he brought home from work, and it had floppies and he had Doom, so I finally got to stay up late at night and play Doom, and that changed my life, of course.
We've all done that.
Yeah, and eventually I started modding Doom, probably in like 2002 or so, 2003. Okay, I started modding Doom and Duke Nukem.
This is kind of where the seeds were sown for you to start developing your own games, is when you started modding the games that were already out there.
It's really strange how that happened, because it was all happening from all these different angles at the same time, because I was actually really into music. I was in bands in like 4th grade and stuff, so I was already composing music, and I was into sound effects too, because I was just into sound effects, and I liked making voices with my mouth too, so I was already into voice acting but didn't know it too. Like, all of these different angles were taking place, and then I was really good at art automatically, so that was like, and I loved playing video games, so I knew I wanted to make video games, and I just ended up going to art school to try to do it, because I didn't know of any other avenues, and I didn't think I could program. I was not a math person, so I just didn't think I was capable.
And do you remember what your first game idea was?
My first game idea ever? Wow, I don't think I've ever really asked myself. That's a really great question. I mean, I have a pretty good memory too. See, but the thing is that I iterated upon other people's games a lot when I was a kid, and I like redesigned other people's games a lot. So it's hard to say like my first game idea, but my first original ideas.
Yeah, your first. Well, you can come back to it. Have a think to see if
I really wanted to make an RPG that was kind of like Minecraft, but this was before Minecraft came out. So it wasn't going to be blocks and cubes. It was going to just be like build your own fort and defend it, and it would be an MMO. And this was kind of before MMOs were really taking off too. Okay. But I also wanted to do like magic casting and guns at the same time, and this was before Destiny and stuff like that. So I don't know. It was an idea that kind of came into fruition, and I'm glad that it did, because there's no way that I could have actually done something like that, because the scope is just outrageous. But it was a culmination of all those games that eventually came out.
Well, it's like, because when you start, you have no idea what's involved, do you? It's only now that you've actually done some game development that you realise doing a massively online RPG role-playing game.
It doesn't make sense to do by yourself first time.
Yeah. So a bit high there.
So what happened was, around like 2013, I was feeling proficient in game development and in Unity, and I started on my first space project, and it was going to be a big one. I was going to make my first big game, because I had made some small little like tiny games, mini games and stuff like that. But this one was going to be a 2D open world, No Man's Sky, essentially, that was going to have terraforming planets and different solar systems, different galaxies, all these different stuff. But it was a twin stick shooter, and different colors different lasers had different colors, and different enemies were going to be different colors. It had all these really great ideas going for it, but it was just too big. It was far too big, and I got really far, but because I was working on it for 2 years.
Oh man.
But then I was coding it in Unity script, which is a terrible language, but it was deprecated, right? It's kind of like a JavaScript Unity language. Okay. It was like a hybrid language.
You're talking to a non-programmer.
Sure. Okay. So
I say non-programmer. I've written several lines of Python. All right. Several.
Yeah. There you go. Figures. Okay. So Python's a language. I'm sure you're familiar with that, right? And C# is a language too, and that's what Unity mostly uses. But it also sometimes allows for other scripting languages, but usually the usability of it isn't that great, so they end up deprecating it. And it just kind of helps get people into it, but then it does this really bad thing of like just deprecating a language on people that are used to using it, and then they're forced to learn C#, which they probably should have already learned from the beginning, I guess, if you're using Unity. Which is that's the underlying like truth nugget there. But yeah, so I was using a language that got deprecated, and it wasn't able to do what I wanted to do, which was serialized state saving, basically. So you would save the game. The game was too big now, and I needed to save. And the language I was using, it was impossible to do it the way that I was doing it. And all the help I was getting was for C#, and everyone was like, "Well, just rewrite the game in C#." And I was like, yeah, too big for that." So that's when I started Retro Spaceball. I took a couple months off and did a game jam and released a game jam game that was actually pretty successful for being a game jam game. I mean, it didn't make any money because it was free, but it still gets played. Someone just played it yesterday.
Wow.
I was like, someone played Light Switch Crusader. And Light Switch Crusader was a stealth game.
Okay.
It was a stealth comedy game where I did all the voice acting and played a homeless person that breaks into homes to turn off their lights that they left on. Right? Because they're like wasting electricity.
Homeless eco warrior.
Exactly. The Light Switch Crusader he's a homeless eco warrior. Exactly. And I eventually made a second level for that game.
Wow. So is that available to play still?
It is. It's free. It's on itch. It's actually on my itch page, but it was a team project, and there's credits on there. One of my friends in Cairo, I can't remember I don't remember what his pseudonym is, but he goes by Matt something. I don't remember his last name either.
Well, we'll check that out. Well, I'll link that as well. We'll have a look at that. I may end up streaming that just for the
Yeah, and then him and another guy who only I ever knew his pseudonym, which I kind of forget too, did the music, which was great. But that's all he did for the game jam was the music, which was like okay, but it was great music, So
yeah, well,
we couldn't do anything else, so we were happy to have him. So
yeah,
but yeah, me and the other dude just spent 72 hours working tirelessly to put it out, and it actually turned out great for being a game jam.
Excellent. Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So that kind of fueled me to make Retro Spaceball because I was like, I made a game, it's released, and people still aren't hiring me. What the
heck? So when did you start developing? Actually, what have you got? A year? When did you start developing Retro Spaceball?
Oh, in November of 2017, I think that's when I actually started. See, it started as a paper idea, like in a notebook. It was just an idea in a notebook when it first was conceptualized, and that was probably 2013 or 14. But it was called Space Pinball, and it was going to be like a mobile game. It was something really small. So I didn't really want to do it right away. I wanted to do big stuff,
Yeah, I mean.
But then I was like, I want to do small stuff.
This could work very well on mobile.
Yeah, and originally I was doing that as well, and there's still a mobile build up, but it's really behind on updates. It's still playable, kind of, I hope. But I really need to update it, and I want to put more into the desktop version, the computer version, and then go back to it, I think is what I'm going to end up doing.
Sure. It
just makes more sense to do it that way, because it's become a much bigger game than what I first envisioned. Once people got involved, I realized that it had a lot more potential than I was giving it room for.
Okay.
Like when I first started the project, I actually only wanted it to be 3 months because I knew after scoping other projects that it was going to take 10 times longer. So I said, I'm gonna try to make a project that's only 3 months, know that it's going to take 10 times longer, and then hope that I can finish it, right? So if we do the math, it's actually not too far off. I'm like a year and a few months in development now. Or no, two and a few months in development. So I'm getting to the
it's that difficult. It's ready when it's ready, isn't it? That's the thing. You can't. If you start releasing a game that's not ready, you're just killing yourself, really.
And I'm not. Honestly, I was planning on updating today, and I didn't because I didn't want to put myself through hell. And my friend was coming up from out of town, and I really wanted to spend time with him. And we tested my other game, which is great because I'm working on a card game, and it's really hard to find testers. And also, he tested Retro Spaceball because I'm working on the versus mode, which is what I was trying to debug when he called me. And I said, yeah, totally. I totally want to hang out, even though I knew, I gotta get this update out. But I'm not letting the negative effects of crunch time and game dev lifestyle affect me. I'm not going to. I've done enough of that for nothing.
Enjoy it anymore. You won't be developing anymore. So
right. Well, the thing was that those 2 years when I was working on Destruction of the Heavens was the space shooter. When I was working on that, I was crunching a lot of that for no reason. just because I felt like I needed to get it done. And I'm glad that I did, because it taught me how to get good at programming, because you're very slow when you first start.
Oh,
like,
I know.
Extremely slow.
You won't believe
unless you're already good.
How long it took me to print my name in Python.
Right. And since I was an artist, maybe I was a little bit slower than someone who's more mathematically inclined, or someone who's more organized. Because I was a very unorganized, artistic person when I started. And now I'm definitely a hybrid. And I prefer that. I prefer being a hybrid.
It's a skill.
I like having both sides. I'm sorry, what's that?
It's a skill you have to practice, like anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like art too. If you're a mathematically inclined person, you need to practice the art side too. Or the disorganization it can be a tool as well. Sometimes people think like, oh, the more organized, the better. But sometimes disorganization leads to different interactions that might not have occurred otherwise.
That's what I tell myself.
Serendipity.
That's what I tell myself. I mean, I am not organized or any of those things. So I'm just chaos. So I'm no good at any of that. I'm no good at art. I'm no good at programming.
Yeah, they say sometimes you should take a different way home from work just to like get your brain focused on different things.
Absolutely, you should do. Just changes your outlook on stuff.
And I try to do that with art and music and programming as well.
Yeah, well, it's good. I mean, with the game.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell. What is your penciled in release date?
Oh, honestly, I'm still working on that. I'm probably going to need help coming up with that date. Honestly, it's so hard to come up with on your own. I would like to do it in about a year, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah.
With year and a half being some padding time that I may or may not need, and also like I'm not trying to overstress myself here. I mean, I have a job. I'm not dying for the money. But I would really like to not work my job anymore. I'd really like to do game development, game design, start a studio, hire some people to help me, and get this off the ground.
So is that an option that you would look down? So would you take anyone else on, not paying them wise, but would you take anyone else on to the project to help you?
I'm talking about paying someone. Absolutely. Right now I'm talking to someone to help me with PR and marketing for the launch, which would be probably part-time work, but eventually, if I had the money, I'd want someone to do that full-time. Because, I mean, it's great that I can do all the development, but I can't do everything.
No, but even programming, would you take someone on to help you with that?
See, programming is very expensive. And so what I've kind of done to cut costs is to make games that I know how to program. So right now, I don't feel like that's a necessity. But
as a hobby, I mean, I don't
in the future.
I'm just saying if someone...
if I found someone who was just interested and say, hey, could I help code? And I'd probably say yeah. But right now it's hard to find anyone that's that interested, where they just ask me like, hey, could I have a job working for you for free?
But for instance, if this podcast lives on the internet for the next 10 years, and in 2 or 3 years' time someone finds it and you haven't released, they could contact
hopefully, if I haven't released by then there's a problem.
Well, there you go. That's why they can step in. But if someone listens to this in the future, however far, they can catch you and just say, hey, do you want some help with that? That sounds cool.
No, I mean, honestly, I think, that's a great idea to ask, and I may or may not need it. Who knows? But, when I first started Retro Spaceball, there was actually someone else that was going to join the team. I had met him selling art at a festival in Illinois back in the day, and he's like, hey, you're making a game. This is great. I really like it. I want to be on the team. I want to help you. And I was like, that's awesome. I will let's just right now split everything in half, but follow this design document that I made. So, we'll do everything but we're going to follow what I made here. And he's like, that's cool. I really like that idea. But as a caveat, he's like, I really want to make the game so it goes horizontal as well. And I said wait, that's totally, that doesn't fit the core pillars of the game design that I marked out in this document. And he's like, but it's a great idea. No one's done this yet. I'm like, that's not true. Other people have done it. But the other thing is that we don't need that gimmick. We've already got a gimmick. We don't need to water down the gimmick. We don't need to dilute what we are doing here. We need to do that. I mean, it's a great idea. And I told him, you should do that. If you really like the idea, do it with yourself. I didn't mean to sound mean like that, but I guess I came off
someone
mean
has
like that.
Someone has to be in charge. Someone has to be making decisions. You can't. It's got to fall to someone at some point. And
I wanted his feedback, but I wanted him to also be able to withstand the critique.
But that's like I said. So as you don't want to ask people to come and help you, and people don't want to just say, "Can I help your game?" So that means I'm free to step in and say, if any programmers would like to contribute to Retro Baseball under Rick's guidance and final say, then let me know.
Yeah.
Or let Rick know on Twitter. Send him a message if you're interested in helping out or joining in or whatever you want.
I hate to scare anyone off already, but there's probably some spaghetti code
no.
we have to deal with.
Yeah, you might say, "Get lost."
I'm not the best programmer.
but hey, why not? Why not ask it? I can ask it, so you don't have to. There you go. So if anyone's interested, let me know. Let Rick know. You never know. Who knows what it'll bring.
And honestly, just if you feel like talking with someone who's making a game, I'm down for networking. I mean, I'm busy, but my Discord is almost always on. Sometimes it's good to be pulled away from your game for a second.
Yeah, and just hear it, and especially if you're talking to another developer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to hear some different voices. So okay, well that's great. So has anyone helped you with the project at all so far? So audio or testing or artists.
I've had a ton of tests. I've had a ton of testing support. I have not had any art help. I haven't had any audio help. Someone helped me with the promotion of a video with some audio, but nothing that's been in the game.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember his name. He changes his name a ton, and I'm only friends with him on Facebook because that's all he uses. And I can't remember what his actual name is.
We can have
yeah, I want to say it's Michael something. I can't remember. Anyways, I was previously working with a different Michael, though, Michael B, who is really good, but I didn't actually end up having a use because I was going to use his music for Destruction of the Heavens, and now that game is defunct. So, but yeah, I did all the art, all the programming, all the music, so I didn't really get help in those lines, but I got a ton of help testing, just a ton. And that's really what's made the game good, because I as soon as I was out of the gray box phase, I put it up on itch. And I kind of jumped the gun on getting out of the gray box phase to put it up on itch just so I could get feedback, and it really helped. I've actually got some really old versions of the game. Actually, they're all on itch, but they're hidden. So I would actually have to make them unhidden for you to be able to download them, but I don't want to be confusing people from downloading the real version.
Sure.
But I want to make a video later of all the different versions and kind of compile it, maybe speed it up or something.
Okay.
Because it's interesting. Like the gray box version is very interesting.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's cool. Yeah. Well, let us know. Yeah. Send me that video when you get round to doing it.
Yeah, there's actually a video up on YouTube that has the gray box stuff in it, but it's very quick.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
I don't know how just searching retro spaceball, I guess, would be the best way. There's actually a ton of retro spaceball stuff if you search for it. It's kind of cool.
Okay.
Because after 2 years, you develop a catalog of links.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure there's loads of stuff.
Yeah.
So what have we got here? So has anything surprised you? Troubled you?
Yeah, a ton. So when I was designing... yeah, this is a huge question. Sorry. When I started designing retro spaceball, I thought like, oh, this will be easy. It's just like Space Invaders, and then it's like, and then all of a sudden I was like, wait, but the camera should scroll and stick to the player, and then all of a sudden it was a different game, and then it was like, how different is this? And then testing it was like, how do I do it? So what happened was, I was getting a lot of feedback, and some of the feedback, when you're getting feedback, sometimes it's vague, or sometimes they say something that they don't mean, but they're still trying to get across that there's a problem. And it's totally valid what they're trying to say. But someone said basically that the game's controls needed to be more like Mario, where they're like a little bit more drifty and slidey, when that wasn't something that needed to be done. And I did it anyways and tried it out and showed it to them, and they were like, yeah, this is much better. And I tried it for a few people, and like, yeah, this is fun. And I put it up on Newgrounds for the first time because it was like the new beta release, and I made all these different changes and stuff. And Newgrounds just completely gave it like 3 stars and was like, all the comments was like, it's a great game, but the controls are terrible. And it was just like everything was like that. So I was like, oh man. So I fixed the controls right away. And ever since then, I've been putting a lot of effort into the controls. So I think that's the number one answer to that question. If you want to move on to something
that's
else.
been your bigger thing. No, I'm just whatever, it's an open-ended question. But I think sometimes
it's a twist on the genre that's pretty twisty. So figuring out the game's design was very much, I had to do it in my head and had no one to ask. It's like, hey, what do you think? Because everyone else was like, what? Yeah. So that was another like big like, whoa, okay.
People sometimes feel like they have to give you feedback as well, and that may be where the control came from. So they feel like, well, I've got to tell him something, and
that might be it too. And Mario's always like, oh, this could be more like Mario,
Yeah, I've got to tell him something, so that makes sense. I'll tell him that. And
that's probably what it was. I never thought about it that way, but I think you're right.
Yeah. So I feel like they're helping you by telling you something, and really they didn't realize what chaos it ensues after that.
Yeah, so my plan is to actually make another version of my game because I don't plan on launching the WebGL version for the final release. It's a nice thing to have, but that's all Newgrounds allows. It doesn't allow for downloads, and it's got to be free in that respect too. So I don't know if you can do in-app purchases on there or not, because I don't have that. I don't do in-app purchases on my game. So I thought about it, but I don't think I'm going to. It's just too much of a thing. It's just going to be a premium price game. Anyways, what was I trying to say? So I was trying to say that I want to republish my game onto Newgrounds with all these new changes and just kind of rebrand it as like Beta 2.0 and hopefully get 5 stars and blow up a little bit more.
Yeah, okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah, but what's the next question? I didn't mean to go too far on.
No, that's fine. That's just no problem. That's like I said, it's an open-ended question because you might have said, "Oh, like you said, I've got 100 things," or just no, everything's gone perfect.
Well, I can keep going down the list, but I don't think we need to.
Well, it's just the main thing that surprised you is what it is. So if it's controls, then it's controls. That's
what it was, man. The controls are very, very difficult. It's such a nitpicky thing, is what it is.
Yeah, and again, people say like different controls as well. It's quite a personal thing. That's why people go into controls
every iteration.
Change the setup straight away. A lot of people go straight into the controller settings and say, "No, I want that button to do this."
And that's a can of beans I have not opened yet that I'm going to, or a can of worms, can of beans.
Yeah, I prefer beans.
I almost bought a can of beans earlier. I got cans of beans on. I should have got those beans.
You should have got them. Regretting it now. Put those worms back. Okay, so and I know we've mentioned it a few times, but where's the best place to find out about the game?
Well, the itch page has a lot of information. You can go to my website, which will link you to the itch page. My website's just myname.com, which is nice. It's Rick Oclon, so RIKOCLON.com, and that takes you to it has 3 games on the main webpage, which is Retro Spaceball, Light Switch Crusader, and then Dodge People, which is a VR game that I worked on in a team, which is actually cool. It's a reverse dodgeball game, very funny, comical game.
Okay, so I'm just checking it out right now as we're doing this.
Oh, yeah, I think there's a quick video on YouTube of Dodge People.
Dodge People. Oh yeah, I see.
if you don't have VR,
it doesn't work for a podcast, so I won't explain it. But
right.
Yeah, head to the website. You can check all that out.
It's pretty fun. It's not on my itch page, but it's one of the other developers of the team. It's on her itch page, so you can definitely check it out. It's for free if you have VR. It should work with Windows Mixed Reality, Oculus, Vive. So
nice. Awesome. Okay, and
yeah, we won an award for that one.
Future games.
We've
spoken a bit about past games already.
Yeah.
So
a lot of the stuff has actually been kind of secret, to be honest. I haven't really tweeted about too much of this stuff. I've been working on my card game quite a bit, and that's been tweeted about a couple times now. Okay, but it's a very vague tweet type situation. So let's get into the card game. Card game.
Yep.
Oh, do you want to ask questions? Or you want me to?
No. I was just going to say. So the card game is probably going to be your next game. Is that right?
I think so. I think I'm going to work on 2 projects at the same time because I'm already kind of working on like 3 projects. So there's this other project that's kind of like sticking its head in there, and it might come out because it's already got there's a dice game that is like waiting to be in production, waiting for me to find time to produce it. It's already been designed and it's ready for production. It just needs to be produced. And I'm probably just going to sell it by hand, like door-to-door type stuff.
Game. Yeah.
A dice game, yeah. It would be easy to program, and I actually already started a mobile app, but I never finished it because this was something that I did in 2016. I never finished it. But I also rebranded the game completely since then.
Okay, so do we have a name for the card game, or is that secret?
The card game, so that was the dice game that I was just describing, but the card game is called Coronal Mass Ejection, or CME for short.
CME, okay.
Are you familiar with the science physics term, coronal mass ejection?
No, I'm not.
All right, so imagine that a star has like sunspots, right? Like solar arcing, right? Well, sometimes, so they call that like a sunstorm that causes that type of stuff.
Yes.
So when a storm gets like too big, there'll be a tremendous solar arc where it will lose a lot of its radioactive matter, and it will just launch it into space.
Oh,
and it can be extremely terrifying, right? And if one were to hit our planet just right, it would wipe out an entire hemisphere of our planet's internet and power for probably like a week.
Oh dear.
And so we replaced all the transformers.
Okay.
And this is something that can occur at any time, mind you. We would have about a day or two before that would hit us. That we know.
Oh, blimey. Sounds like...
Yeah. So this game is based off of that concept, right? It's actually a pretty cool mechanic where the cards in the deck are recycled. You discard them, but like in a lot of card games, when you are out of cards, you reshuffle the discard pile and you use that to pull cards from. So this one card in the game is called a coronal mass ejection, and it hurts everyone on the field for 3 points of damage, which wipes out a lot of the lower resource cards. There's cards that don't have any cost at all, and when you draw those cards, you can put them in your playing field, in your fleet, because it's a sci-fi game. You're a mothership, and you're building a fleet. So you pull a card, and if it says no cost, you can put it in your fleet. But if someone pulls a coronal mass ejection card, it's most likely going to get wiped out unless you've upgraded it in some way. So it kind of keeps this flow of cards moving around. And then there's other events that occur outside of the coronal mass ejection. You've got solar arcing, you've got your asteroid shower, you've got your inbound space pirates and stuff like that affect the battlefield. They work almost as NPCs. So it's fun with two people, but I want to test it with 3 and then 4 and then upwards from there and see how I can expand upon it.
Okay, and now another silly question. Again, is that physical or digital?
It is. It's a physical game. I do want to do a lot of testing where I make a prototype version of the game where I use icons instead of art and make a small PDF where you can print it off at home and just cut it with an X-Acto knife or something like that. And then I also want to make it easy to do Roll20 online, where you download the icon decks and put them and play a game. And I'll teach people on Discord, and we'll get some Discord groups together to play coronal mass ejection online.
You could always live stream that, couldn't you? And have a...
You could, absolutely. I'm definitely going to live stream it. I'm probably going to live stream the Roll20 as well as some live matches, and once I get some people involved. And then the plan is to get a Kickstarter going once I have a community for it. And luckily, card games are a lot cheaper than video games to produce.
Yes, they are.
So the Kickstarter won't be asking as much as a video game would. And then it'll hopefully, there might be a few hiccups, but packaging and production probably shouldn't be too bad. I'm a designer, so I can do all that stuff. I don't have to pay for the art. I've got that handled, and I'm going to stream all the art. So I think that'll be a great way to grow a community for the Kickstarter.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, you could even have people design cards, couldn't you? Yeah, for the rewards and stuff.
That is a great idea. I kind of want to do pixel art.
Oh, I love pixel art.
I really think that's going to be the idea. I haven't completely 100% decided on it because I can do Photoshop painting as well, but man, that's time consuming. And pixel art is too, but I really think the pixel art will sell better in the end. I think it will be a better look for the cards. I think people will appreciate it more.
It would look nice, and pixel art is its own little sort of niche as well, isn't it? It is a very.
It sure is.
It is.
And I was a little bit disappointed when I saw pixel art playing cards already, that they already exist, but it's not going to stop me. I still like the idea enough.
Your game is your game. I mean, it's like saying you're disappointed that someone else has got a car.
Yeah, it's like whatever. You get that little spike of jealousy, and then it goes away.
Yeah, you want to be the first person to ever think of it.
That's good, right?
But it's a proof of concept, because if no one's ever thought of it, probably means it's not that great an idea.
And that's exactly what I faced with Retro Spaceball, where I wasn't sure if it was a good idea or not until other pinball games started popping up.
There you go, and it's just proving the concept exactly. So, I mean, someone's got to be first as well. That's the other way, is it? Think about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I wasn't first. There's a whole bunch of pinball knockoffs that didn't do well. There's a few that did. Obviously, Sonic's Pinball was a huge inspiration for my game. Devil's Crush and Demon Crush, Devil's Crush, I forget the name. And then what was the other one? Alien Crush. Those are made by the same developer, and they were pinball games, but they were very twisty. They twisted the genre.
But then, how much of it is down to marketing and just exposure?
Oh yeah.
How many good games are out there that no one's ever played? I'm sure there's loads. So you never know. You never know what the reason for a game not working is. Sometimes bad design. Sometimes it's just poor marketing. It could be anything.
Right. All of it's so difficult to do as well. Every step of the way is super difficult.
Yeah, it is. And if you're an indie dev, then you've suddenly got to be a marketer, a developer, a social, fiend. You love talking to people, and that's a hard skill to have. All those things.
Oh yeah. I just put on a face. It's easier to talk to people when I put on a face. It's just like yeah. I just become someone that talks to people all the time. Yeah, it's really difficult to do that.
Again, it's a skill that they probably don't talk about. A lot of people don't talk about as developers. Being a marketer, socialist, not a socialist, a social
being. Yeah,
social being. Yeah, that is a whole new skill set that you learn.
Right, because I mean, let's face it, we're basically aliens. We sit at a computer and just like deal with numbers and code and art and stuff, and alienate ourselves from society.
Yeah, you do.
And then we go to the store and pretend that we're normal. Right?
Exactly. It's a whole new world to learn. So it's important to do. Okay, so the last thing I've got on my list is, I could have stuck it in a bit earlier, but is there one? I'm really after a silly thing. Is there one thing that you've just spent on the game way too long on that you thought, or maybe it should have taken you an hour or two, and it ended up taking you like a week, 2 weeks? Anything particular?
Well, there's something that almost follows suit with the question. It's so close that I got to bring it up though. My friend was like, he's helping me a ton on the game. He loved the game idea, and he still loves it. He's still on Facebook. He's rooting me on. He's one of the only people that are rooting me on Facebook. Shout out to Mark Huntley for rooting me on. Totally.
What a Mark.
But yeah. So he had a big list of ideas for the game, which is awesome because he was researching how pinball could be further implemented in the game, and that's something that I was really looking at the time. And one of his ideas was multi-ball. Right. And I kind of had the idea too, but he like put so much emphasis on it that I was like, you're right. I'm going to fast track multi-ball and see if this is doable. Cause I wanted to know early on. I was at that point in development where I was making more levels, and I was like, if multi-ball works, then it needs to work on every level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So I tried it out and I got it working, and it took 2 weeks or so of like, I think I was full-time at that point. I wasn't working my other job yet. Of like full-time development to get it working. It was just so difficult because I'd already set up the ball to be one, and the ball has a lot to it. It's not just a ball. There's a lot of physics stuff going on with the ball. It's actually got I think 8 different balls, right? Or is it 9? I think it's 8 balls around it that are smaller that are different targets for your bullet. So if you hit it from the bottom, then it shoots directly up. If you hit it from the side, then it shoots it to the side. And if you hit it in between, and from all angles, right? So there's a lot to the ball. So not to get caught on a tangent there, but multi-ball, adding that was not an easy task. I had to learn all these new things and get it in there. Once I did, it was not fun. it didn't help the game, and it did nothing for the core mechanics or design. It did
added
nothing.
chaos.
It added chaos, and what it did was it distracted the players, and they always lost afterwards. It hurt people more than it helped them. So I took it out.
God damn it, Mark! What are you doing?
No, it was a great idea. It just wasn't great for the design that I had already cut in stone.
But, yeah, I suppose part of development is trying the stuff that doesn't work, but knowing to remove it as well.
And I honestly, Mark helped me so much that I honestly, I appreciate the amount of ideas and the fact that there was one idea that didn't work with my game. That's fine. It's my job as a designer to test it and figure it out. So still kudos to Mark for providing the feedback.
All right, you saved yourself this time, Mark. you're back in the good books. Awesome. Okay, so that is basically all the questions that I have to ask. Is there anything that you want to add question wise? Anything you want to bring up or talk about?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different stuff going on with me as far as the game design stuff and why I'm a game designer and stuff. But mostly I'm just trying to get people to play my game. For the most part, it's been a difficult path, but the more people I get playing it, the more people are telling me they like it, the more I'm working on it. So I'm getting people in the Discord and trying to get the beta out there. People are joining the newsletter, which is great. People are genuinely interested in what I'm working on, which is awesome. I spent a lot of time with Destruction of the Heavens. I wasn't doing anything to promote it. I had a YouTube channel that made 2 videos on, got no views, and I was trying on Facebook, but I wasn't getting anywhere because Facebook was transitioning to having no organic reach at the time. So finally, I feel like the alignment is shifting where I'm finally getting some visibility, which is amazing. And I'm hiring someone to help me with that, and I really think that that's going to help. So. Okay. But other than that,
What I did want to say.
Oh, sure.
Is we didn't speak about the bosses in the game.
Oh, the bosses, yeah. So I'd like to add more.
Yeah, I actually really like the bosses. That was I didn't when I was playing it. I was hating it.
Did you enjoy hating it though?
Yeah, I did because you saw how long I played it for, trying to beat it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So funny story. Now I don't want to mess up this person's pseudonym on Discord. I'm gonna find their channel real quick. What was it called? I lost it. I don't know where it went. Anyways, someone who just streamed my game. I don't want to butcher their name. They could not beat the last boss. They were doing great the whole game. They just powered through the whole game way quicker than I'd seen anyone do it. And then they got to the final boss and they just couldn't do it. And I was giving them tips and they still couldn't do it. It took them over 30 minutes to do it. And then, so my friend was in town, like I said, testing my card game. I had him test Retro Spaceball. And he was really tired by the end of it. But I was like, no, you got to play the boss. Just play the boss. And he's like, oh, come on, I'm really tired. I'm like, no, come on, you're here, play the boss. So I forced him to play the boss. And he beat it in 2 minutes. There's a timer, right? 2 minutes on the boss. I was blown away. So there's a little bit of random, I think, that goes into play.
Well, I mean, I didn't actually add how long it took me. I should probably look how long it took me to be the boss, because it took me quite a while.
It was 20 minutes or so.
Was it?
I feel like I just by judging the scrub bar or whatever they call it.
Yeah. Well, we've actually hit the point on the live stream or YouTube stream or wherever you're watching this. If you're watching it video wise, then it's actually the boss bit right now.
Yeah. And it's an interesting boss. It was a much flashier actually at first, and it was in a flashier level. And a lot of people actually complained about the flashiness, which I was kind of being more nostalgic with it. But a lot of people thought I was just being mean to epileptics or something, but I wasn't trying to do so. I toned it down just based on public feedback.
Yeah, it's cool. Again, the artwork for I know it's difficult for a podcast, but The artwork is fantastic for the boss. I love the style. It looks
Thank you. I very much appreciate it.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of like a 16-bit style. There's no color restrictions on the color palette. I kind of just went for what looked good with using my artistic color theory skills and stuff like that.
So it's just basically a giant space beetle spider thing.
Yeah, it's got some arms and some mandibles, like 2 sets of mandibles, and then
and it's basically blocking your route. That's so the boss is you've flown through space. You've got to this little.
It's pretty large too.
And it's it's the whole screen. I mean, it's massive. But it looks fantastic. So if you do play the demo, or whatever is out at the time, I highly recommend you keep going until you get to the boss, because you should definitely see it. It looks fantastic.
And if you really want to, you can join the Discord and find out how to skip the levels.
No, they must play it all like I do. You must play the whole game.
I never tell the streamers how to skip the levels.
Yeah, I noticed. No, but I didn't
I'll tell them how to get to versus mode.
Yeah,
that's what they get.
Levels. That's the point.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about versus mode. We should cover that real quick too.
Oh, okay.
Well, first I'll cover the second boss, because we talked a lot about the bug boss. The first boss that you encounter in the game is actually 3 turrets that have like weak points, and that was actually, it took me a while to figure out to get it just right. But it's pretty simple as far as the game design goes, and it's fun. I like it. I made it a lot easier. It started very difficult. How was your feeling on it?
That was I think the only, not problem, but the only issue I had with it was I didn't realise it was a boss.
Yeah. I want to make the music change there.
This was a difficult bit. I saw, you know what I mean? I was like, wow, this is difficult. It was only kind of doing. I was thinking, oh, is this like a little mini boss or something?
I was very experimental when I was making this game to test it, and some of those experiments are still present, where that boss kind of fades, like the level fades into the boss, and then all of a sudden you're trapped into the boss room. And then this one, in this particular boss that we're watching with the bug boss, you're just automatically there in front of the boss when you start the level.
It's very obvious that this is a boss level, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other one's not as obvious.
Yeah, it's not as obvious, but it was a good challenge, and it was definitely a level 1 boss, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it changed a bit. The gameplay changed a bit. You had to actually be quite tactical on what you shot to blow up the turrets. But like I said, it just didn't. I just thought, oh, this is a boss. So I know we spoke about it when I was doing the live stream about changing the music, into a classic, I have down-tuned boss noise.
I have some boss music. I wonder if there's a way that I can actually play it. Probably not. But you could link it onto the show notes or whatever. It's on SoundCloud.
Okay, so I'll link that in again.
We'll just have to remember to do it. Yeah.
somewhere they'll be available. Just keep an eye out for those.
It's really interesting boss music. Someone told me it sounds like mindless self-indulgence, which is interesting, because I do actually enjoy some mindless self-indulgence. Not all of it. They're kind of all over the place. But it's funny that someone pinpointed that in my influences.
Where is the music from? Have you created it yourself?
Oh yeah. So I've been using this software called LMMS. I say it slow because it's hard to say fast.
Yes.
But it's free software, and you can put in your VSTs. I think it only accepts 32-bit VSTs at the time, but there's tons of free 32-bit VSTs. And I still had a whole bunch from back before 64-bit was a thing. So it gave me a chance to go through my old VST library, which was cool. But also, it came with a bunch of really useful retro sound effects and tones, which is super cool. And it's, like I said, it's free. It's basically an open source. I don't think it's open source. It's a free version of Fruity Loops, essentially. It's just like Fruity Loops with some UI bugs, and you know how not all the corners are polished in the,
of course,
the free software. So
yeah.
It's usable. Save often, I would say, if you're using it, but it's usable. And I did the whole thing on stream. Actually, I made the music on stream. So that's
okay. So that's another thing. So you actually, what do you do? Do you actually stream any development that you do?
I do. Yeah, I stream a lot of it. Not as often as I'd like to, because a lot of times I'm just too tired to get as much done as I'd like to, and that would be boring to stream.
Of course. Yeah.
I try to keep it exciting.
So the main thing from this show, what we're doing right now, is for you to, your main want is for people just to get on the website and play the game.
Sure, and play my game, listen to the podcast, follow me on Twitter, just join the community, really, because there's a whole bunch of us, and I'm promoting indie devs on my podcast. I'm promoting them on my Twitter. I'm promoting them as much as I can by helping with the indie dev new order. I'm sure you might have heard of it, and if you haven't, you should check it out. There's a hashtag on Twitter. There's a Discord server. The indie dev world order.
Yeah, it is hard to say. Yeah, I
cannot say it.
Well. And it's
a lot of fun. There's tons of people just like me, tons of indie devs just like you or whoever, and tons of streamers. If you're looking for games to stream, there's people looking if you want to try something new, something that might have some bugs in it, but it's free, play some indie games.
There's loads, and it is a very good server to join. So I joined it last week, and there's just tons in there. Fantastic.
Yeah. And I'm on Twitter at Rick Oclon, just like everything else, RIKOCLON. You can find me pretty much everywhere. Instagram is RickOclon_art or something like that. Yep. But I'm mostly on Twitter and Itch. Yep. I'm also on Game Jolt Newgrounds. I will be on Steam soon. I really want people to join the newsletter so that way I can remind them when the Steam game or the Steam page is up. And
because then you can wishlist it, can't they? So yeah, absolutely.
But for now, I just really want people to play the game. So give it a shot. See if you like it. If you do, join the community and let me know. I'd love to say hi and I'd love to hear what you think about the game too. You don't have to hold back anything. If there's something you don't like, it doesn't hurt me at all. I want to make the game better. It actually helps me. If you don't like the game, tell me.
Well, as I say, that is one thing. While I was streaming it, you were very open to any. Not that I had any criticism, but any ideas that I had or anything I was struggling with, you were very
any criticism, even if you don't know how to like fine tune it so it's positive. I'm good enough at taking negative criticism that I can be fine with that.
Yeah, you're very good listening to me. And again, like I said, I'm not an official tester. I'm not a pro.
No, but you gave great feedback.
I'm just someone who plays games. So if you do that as well, then send Rick your information,
And also send CforSerious your game demos so he can test them because he's awesome at testing.
Thank you.
You gave some really great feedback.
Thank you very much. That's good. Yeah, like I said, as always, if you've got a game you want me to stream, send it over. I'll play it and let you know what I think. So I think that is pretty much all the questions I had, really.
Nice. I think we've covered a lot.
If we can do a follow-up once you've got maybe once you got to the point where you've done a few releases, you've done some significant changes, updates, sure. whatever you're going to be adding, levels, bosses, my face in the game, anything you think of, really. Once you've done all that, idea. It is a great idea.
It might be a Kickstarter perk.
Your face is the boss.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
That's not a bad idea. I might have to write that one down.
You should put that down. You should. You can have that one for free. So, it's been for our first ever podcast episode. This has been fantastic. We've covered absolutely tons. It's been awesome. And like I said, I will do another stream of your game because I enjoy playing it. So it's easy.
I want to thank you so much for playing my game. It's really an honor for you to play it and to stream it, to provide the feedback. It's been a wonderful experience meeting you. I think what you're doing is great.
Thank you very much. Well, it's been nice talking to you as well. I mean, it's also another friend in the community. It's another contact, isn't it? I mean, who knows where it's going to go?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can tell me what the news is like over there on the other side of the ocean.
I can, absolutely. So our time zones haven't stopped us recording, which is amazing. I thought it might be an issue.
No, actually, it works out perfectly. Nice. Your evenings are open, my afternoons are open. Perfect.
It's like a dream come true. Right, okay, so that will be I say the end of the podcast. I'll probably put some bits after this, but that'll be we'll stop it there.
Yeah.
So for the live stream, again, this will be out. I may well live stream every single podcast now. It seems to work.
Cool. Yeah, why not?
So you can catch all that. And thank you so much for coming on. It's been awesome.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
No problem. Thank you. Cheers, man. Well, I should probably press stop there. So there you go. That'll be the end of the official podcast. I'll chuck in my end bit there.
Okay, so now you know a little bit more about me, a little bit more about retro spaceball and coronal mass ejection, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope you enjoyed CforSerious, and I hope you check out more of his content on his YouTube channel, CforSerious About Games. And yeah, I hope you check out more content, and have a great day. Thank you so much for listening, and take care.